I think a lot of self help content nowadays assumes you have a sophisticated understanding of your problems and a level of self awareness. But you're not a mountain, a disruptor, or whatever the latest alpha bro patch is. What you really are is a rat. Yes, even after millions of years of evolution, deep down, you're still a rodent. And it might be hard to get a rat to change its outlook on life, but it'd be easy to teach it a few tricks by appealing to and manipulating its primitive brain, aka your primitive brain. And today on the Poopy Show, we go over a list of 5 ways to do just that. Number 1. You might already be familiar with don't dress for the job you have, dress for the job you want. But how you dress isn't just about making an impression on others. See, the clothes you put on have an actual impact on how well you perform. Embodied cognition is a theory that suggests that cognition is not just a product of our mind, but can be affected by the body's form, actions, as well as environment. Psychologists Adam Galinsky and Hadjo Adam, who coined the term enclothed cognition, describe how clothes can affect our psychological processes through the activation of abstract concepts and their symbolic meaning. In this scenario, the question, what if me symbol, was answered through several experiments where participants who associated attention-related characteristics with lab coats were separated into 3 groups. One which wore the lab coats, one that just had the lab coats on display, and one which was to perform the tasks in a lab coat-free environment. They were all given the super annoying Stroop test, which requires high levels of attention and concentration. Astoundingly, the group that wore the lab coats did twice as good, and similar results were seen in the other 2 experiments, which isn't very hard to believe. Symbols are the original language of the pattern-seeking, meaning-making human mind, so they do hold a lot of subconscious weight. Now, I'm not saying putting on a unitard will magically turn you into a powerlifter, but I am saying putting on a lab coat will. I'm not, but I'm definitely getting a lab coat. Even if it doesn't help increase sustained attention, it's gonna make me look like I'm always up to something, and shit can go down any minute. Also, I don't need an experiment to tell me that I'll feel good in it. I just needed peer-reviewed research to justify my purchase. Next, number 2 is kind of a 2-parter. Self-fulfilling prophecies and the Pygmalion effect. A self-fulfilling prophecy is when your expectations about a certain outcome influence what you do, and biased actions push you towards realizing your prediction. I'm not talking about fate or accidentally banging your mom. I'm talking about things like the placebo effect, which is a great example of how powerful believing in expectations can be. And there's nothing sweeter than being right. It's so good to be right, in fact, that even negative expectations for an outcome might unconsciously produce the poor actions that lead you to said negative outcome. For example, you think you will fail an important presentation. You don't prepare as well as you could because you believe it's futile. You're less productive because you're too anxious, and on the day, you stutter and forget your points because you're second-guessing yourself. So in the end, you do fail, and you might even convince yourself that you're just bad at presenting in general, creating a cycle and going down the slippery slope that is learned helplessness, simply because of an expectation. That being said, I can't just go, you gotta be more confident in yourself. Do I look like a book cover? I'm saying, go buy a lab coat. No, I'm serious. Turns out wearing a lab coat makes you the goat actually, as proved by the enclothed cognition experiment I just talked about. The test must either be true or I was lying in order to force upon you a placebo made out of polyester. Either way, an expectation to do better has been set. You're welcome. Moving on to 2.5, the Pygmalion effect. It's not just your expectations that influence your actions and thus the expected outcome. It's your expectations of other people that can affect your actions so that once again, your beliefs, not of the outcome, but of others, can be confirmed. Named after the Greek myth of Pygmalion, a sculptor who had such great expectations for his statue that it came to life. It usually applies to authoritative figures. In the Rosenthal-Jacobson study, the researchers randomly chose a group of elementary school children and informed their teachers that they are gifted. And although they weren't actually faster learners, and neither were they told that they are, at the end of the school year, those kids showed greater improvement than the kids labeled non-gifted. And there's also a bad ending version of this, the golem effect, where low expectations of workers and students leads to worse performance. It's also named after a myth involving a statue, but this one went insane because it didn't get to clock out Friday night. So the takeaway here is do it. Be delusional for 1 second. Expect good from yourself and others. Next, number 3. Ben Franklin once said, "Wine is constant proof that God loves us and loves to see us happy. And also, he that has once done you a kindness will be more ready to do you another than he whom you yourself have obliged." Both hold much wisdom, but the second quote has a bunch of nerds backing it up. And so, the Ben Franklin effect. This is a psychological phenomenon that explains how people tend to like someone more after they've done them a favor. And it has little to do with your actual opinions of the person asking for a favor and everything to do with your opinion of yourself. See, you need to justify and rationalize the act of doing someone a favor by convincing yourself that you must like the person. If you don't, it would conflict with your typical behavior and self-perception. Even if you've once felt neutral towards the person, you will adjust your attitude and opinions of them in order for your actions to be consistent with your self-image. I know it sounds really convoluted, but it's basically a cognitive dissonance exploit. And this might be a niche example that not everyone in the audience will understand, but every semi-stranger in Eastern Europe that has ever asked me for a cigarette just gets bro status. I swear you have done nothing to gain my sympathy, but you have earned my trust. I'm not going to explain why. Helping others just kind of feels like this, so... By the way, I'm obviously not encouraging you to go on the street and ask random people for cigarettes. But what you might actually benefit from is number 4. Asking someone to share a warm drink with you. I know you might be tired of me bringing it up over and over again, but this is again somewhat related to the lab coat from before. Let me explain. Embodied cognition doesn't just apply to clothes. All kinds of objects and sensations can influence our perception. Joshua Ackerman and John Barr conducted an experiment in which 3 resumes were given to employers. One was just paper, one was attached to a clipboard, and one was attached to a heavy clipboard. Interviewers rated the heavy clipboard interviewees much higher. Did they email them back though? Probably not. Why have decency when you can just waste someone's time? This is not important in terms of discussing the experiment, I just have feelings. Anyways, I talked about symbol 3 minutes ago, hope you remember. The weight of the clipboard made the interviewer see the candidate as more important. Holding anything heavy in general while contemplating something will make what you're thinking about feel more important, because you can say that you're contemplating a weighty decision. And on the brighter side, the warm drink you're holding will make you believe that the person you're talking to has a warmer personality. Bonus points if you're sitting on a soft couch, double points if you're wearing a lab coat. Those were all the useful tips that I wanted to share with you today. I hope they inspire you to check out some other obscure psychological experiments. Just don't look at the ones that involve dolphins, or mice, or monkeys. Avoid the animal ones in general. No more self-help books, okay? I swear 50% is verbal snake oil, 45% is shit you already knew about, and 5% is friendly Geordie. And you know, I've been there. Before I realized that I can get more enrichment from reading a PlayStation 1 game manual or watching PewDiePie videos. Cause you know, they make you feel real good about yourself. They really make you feel like you're putting in an effort for like self-improvement, but you're really just, you know. That being said, if I see a chick on Instagram that's like talking either way too fast or way too slow and is wearing like elements from like 5 different cultures as accessories, I'll hear her out. But that's only because it's like 3 a.m. and I'm feeling particularly in tune with the moon and my ovaries or whatever. But yeah, none of it really helps you. That being said, I'm usually very uncomfortable in front of a camera, but I'm still really uncomfortable. Oh, was this under the lab coat? Gamer subs shirts. Like classy ones. Is there anything on the back? Gamer subs made some shirts. They look really cool. They look really cool. I look really cool in them. You might look cool in them. But I sure do. Maybe get some so you can look like me. Cause I look so cool. Gamer subs shirts. Gamer subs, code poopy, 10% off. Gamer subs shirts. Go buy some. I get some money if you buy some, and that's pretty cool, and I look pretty cool. Gamer subs shirts, 100 years at gamersubs.gg.com.web.uk.png. Use code poopy for 10% off. That was all, bye.